All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode of Navigator Nuggets. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Rochester, board certified pediatrician, former caregiver, independent health advocate, and the CEO of Your GPS Doc. I am super excited, you guys. I have been hyped, amped, whatever you want to call it, all week because this Men's Health Month really kind of hit me harder than usual because I just started reflecting on everything that we're going through in the nation, the COVID-19 pandemic and, the deaths of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and all the other ones and the protests. And I just started really reflecting on the importance of men's health and particularly Black men's health. And so I started thinking, who can I bring on to help me talk about this? And these two gentlemen were the first two people that I thought of. And I was so excited that they both said yes. I mean, no hesitation. They both said yes. And so I am thrilled. We don't get to see each other often. I can't even remember the last time I saw Dr. Mallory in person. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to give you all a brief introduction to my guests, and then we're just going to hop right on into this. So if you are a man, what I want you to do is text your boys, send them a Facebook message, share this broadcast, tag them in the comments. And if you are a woman, please, if you have a significant other who's a male in your house, go grab them. Text your uncles, your nephews, your cousins, your brothers, because my goal is for as many men to see this as possible, and specifically Black men. And I'm not making apologies about that tonight. It is Men's Health Month, but as you can see, we're all African Americans, and so we are going to be focused on Black men and their health tonight. All right, so let me tell you all a little bit about my two guests. So we have Dr. Kester Cross, and Dr. Cross is from Wilmington, Delaware. He got his Bachelor's of Science in Biology from Hampton University. I'm from DC, so I can't say that that's the real HU, but anyway. He went to Hampton University, and then, as I mentioned, he got his doctorate in medicine from University of Maryland School of Medicine. And then he completed his residency also at the University of Maryland, as well as his training in gastroenterology. And Dr. Cross is currently in private practice in Columbia and Baltimore, Maryland. And he is a gastroenterologist. And so I'm thrilled to have Dr. Cross here with me tonight. And also we have Dr. Mallory Williams. So Dr. Mallory Williams graduated from Morehouse College. He also graduated from the University of Maryland.
Yes, Kester Morehouse.
What's that?
I said, yes, Kester Morehouse.
No rivalry here, you guys, no rivalry. He is a graduate of the University of Maryland School of Medicine, along with Dr. Cross and myself. Dr. Williams is a Commonwealth Fund Fellow in Minority Health Policy. So he is a trauma surgeon, but he also is a public health physician and expert. And he currently is the chair, right? The trauma medical director at Howard University Hospital. He is in charge of the Level 1 Trauma Center at Howard University. So these guys are highly educated, highly skilled, and my classmates who I love dearly. And again, I just thank you both of you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure's all mine. I'm honored that you asked me to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. All right. So, I said a little bit in the intro, it is Men's Health Month, and it's probably not a surprise to those of you who are watching that, there are some concerns, there are some problems when it comes to men and healthcare. So I just want to share a couple of statistics, and then we're just going to hop right into our discussion. So one thing I want you all to know is that overall men have a 60% higher mortality compared to women. 60% higher mortality. According to the CDC, men die 5 years younger, and they die at higher rates from 9 of the 10 top leading causes of death. Okay, and so the question is why? Why is it that there are disparities in outcomes when it comes to men? Of course, we know, just like everything else, that's even magnified when it comes to our Black men. And so who better to talk about this than, two Black men, Black physicians. So I guess my first question to each of you is, would you be willing to share a personal experience that relates to men and being avoiding healthcare? It could be about yourself. It could be about someone in your life, a patient. But I think storytelling is really powerful. And so I'd love for you all to share something. So we'll start with you, Dr. Williams.
Thank you so much. First of all, anytime I can join the beautiful Dr. Rochester and be on the same card, although the undercard, with Dr. Kester Cross, it's a great night. It's a great night. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about times we had in medical school.
Man.
And I'm just like, oh man, look how far this train has gone down the road.
Amen.
To your question, I'm going to talk about myself because I think that's what I can do most powerfully.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk about my own illnesses because I think that will be reflective of some experiences that can perhaps give people insight. So one day I, went to the bathroom, no big deal. I usually don't look at a lot of things when I'm in the bathroom. I'm a busy guy. I got to get in there and get out. But I did notice that I had what we would call hematuria, which is urination of blood. And, I went and drank a lot of what I am an educated physician, surgeon, critical care intensivist, guys. Mm-hmm. And so there's no excuses for me to fall into the category of ignoring things to the point where you don't go to the doctor. And so I kind of ignored it because the last thing I want to be is to go to a doctor and be told there's something wrong with me. Because as an African-American man, I got enough problems in society. I'm not trying to go to a doctor and get it all written down and codified that there is something wrong with Mallory Williams. There's an abnormality there. I don't want to hear that. So that avoidant behavior is born out of, the other issues that surround being a Black male in society. I did go to a doctor, very beautiful internist, was happy I was there. And got a workup, got some tests, nothing came back. Long story short, I kind of continue to have that problem, continue to ignore it, and even was so obstinate that I went to Iraq in the service of our country, knowing I had that problem, and then came back when I would finally have that problem resolved or dealt with. And that problem ended up being transitional cell carcinoma, a cancer of the bladder, right? And so that required major operation, recovery time. And lucky for me, the procrastination or the avoidant behavior didn't cost me my life, right? Because I had other contributions to make to society. I had one more time to see Kester. I had one more time to see Nicole. My behavior was totally irresponsible, and I was not a non-medical personal, right? I just was a very, very busy Black professional with children, a wife, a mother, a brother, and trying to get it all done. And I didn't have time to hear about my own vulnerabilities or hear about my own impending difficulties with continuing to do the things that, I love to do and quite frankly, bring me a lot of joy. And so getting over all the other things in life to take care of ourselves, we tend to think of that as an African-American woman issue. It also can very well be a African-American male issue, particularly if you are kind of the responsible one and somewhat progressed in your life. And so those are things that I would say, we have to kind of get beyond and get over. And the way we do that is by clearly kind of remodeling how we think about life. If the machine breaks down, it all breaks down, right? So the body and the health of Mallory Williams was so important to everything that I cared about, yet I ignored it. Mm-hmm. As an educated surgeon, no less, right? So it can happen to any of your listeners right now who may have some degree of be less informed in some ways. That's my story, and I still think about it, and it's shocking to me how that happened.
And I appreciate you sharing that, Mallory, because, you know, like you said, you are a well-trained physician, a surgeon, and yet you put off your health. You felt like you were too busy. And I'm hoping that will help some of you that are watching, because, you know, we're not perfect either. And he's sharing that he knew better, you know, but still things got in the way, and some of his vulnerabilities got in the way. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I neglected to mention, you all can see that Dr. Williams is in his fatigues with the American flag. Y'all, he is in Honduras, currently serving our country. So thank you for your service, Dr. Williams. And
my pleasure.
For agreeing. Again, he's not even in the country, and yet he was kind enough and gracious enough to join us. So thank you for that. So Dr. Cross, what's your story? Do you have something you can share with us about?
Again, honor to be here. Dr. Williams, you are in major trouble for that denial, but he touched on a lot of things that I'll piggyback. Number one, there are multiple reasons that men don't go to the doctor. The most common cause is they're too busy. So he mentioned about his lives, his children, etc. The next cause he mentioned as well, men don't want to get the bad news about their health. It's one thing to wonder if something's wrong, but there's something different to know. And once we find out and we know the enemy, there's some issues with that mentally, and the struggle with men where it is a sign of weakness to be ill, and we need to believe that we're strong. And then another reason men don't go to the doctors, they don't want to have a rectal exam or be any type of invasive stuff, and so they avoid it. Another cause is the distrust of the medical system, and that just cannot be overlooked. And we know that children are born trusting, so when someone doesn't trust something had to happen.
That's right.
And as we peel back that onion, and we cry dealing with the issues that we're seeing current day, racism is not new. It hasn't changed. It's just being filmed with today's iPhones. Thankful to Steve Jobs. But that being said, a man and a woman of color has typically had something happen to them to make them distrust the system. And in this particular case, we'll talk about the healthcare system, where what is a Black man's interaction with the healthcare system? And just by saying that, I want to digress to say I hate when we all get put into one box, because there's multiple layers that creates a man, right? It's his individuality, it's his relationship to his parents, good, bad, indifferent, abusive. It's his relationship with the community that he's in. Is that good, bad, or indifferent? How does the community treat that particular man? And then society at large. So there's 3 different levels that creates a human being. So when we put us all in one and not knowing how that Black man was treated, there's certain levels of trust in the system. So, but sometimes a Black man's encounters with the healthcare system, was it a clinic? What was your relationship with a pediatrician? Mine was with a happy-go-lucky pediatrician. My parents lived in the same place until I was 16. Then we moved, but we still stayed near. I had the same doctor for 18 years.
Wow.
My relationship with my pediatrician was lovely. It was great. I liked to go to the doctor. She had to kick me out after I was in college. I was the biggest kid sitting in the waiting room, right? But as a open-minded physician, when you talk to people, that is not everybody's journey with the healthcare system. Was it a clinic? Did their parents move? Did they just see doctor after doctor that just was working at 8 to 5 that really didn't care about them? Was there a doctor that actually cared about the Black culture? So when a Black man or a Black child has a dysfunctional relationship with the pediatrician, then they go off to school or get a job, they don't encounter the healthcare system till they get married, till they have a child, till they get sick, till they have a girlfriend. It's different for a Black man. So one thing we have to understand, that a Black woman's relationship with the healthcare system Is the pediatrician good, bad, or indifferent? They have to continue their relationship because they need reproductive health care. If they have a bad relationship with one doctor, they then find another one. So they've kind of learned how to navigate the healthcare system, good, bad, or indifferent, till they find a trusting relationship, person that respects them. Men, it doesn't happen like that. And they often don't go to the doctor till they're sick. So we know nothing of a well visit. That being said, I've been in practice for almost 20 years. The least likely subgroup of individuals I see are single Black men. Single Black men go to the doctor the least of any American subgroup. That's Asians, Hispanics, Black, white, male, female. Black men that are single go to the doctor the least amount. They have the highest death rate in the country. A married Black man lives a little longer. And I say it because their wives, their girlfriends make them go to the doctor. A woman's relationship is twofold. One, often she has been able to develop a relationship with a Black man that is not easy, okay? Black men, by the time they are 20 or 30, have been hurt several times by the country, by their community, maybe by their parents. So with that, they are scarred individuals. So it's hard to have a good relationship. But here, you have a good relationship with a Black man, and one of your roles is, one, to maintain that relationship, but two, to make sure he goes to the doctor, because that's the only Black men that Dr. Williams, myself, you, Dr. Rochester, the times that we see a Black man is because a Black woman or the woman in their life have made them, encouraged them, and they've gone to the doctor. And early detection for all diseases, what Dr. Williams was just sharing, there is an expiration date on all these diseases. If you do not get them evaluated, it will win. And the only way to beat it is the earlier you find out. So going to the doctor sooner is better. And Black men don't go without encouragement because they distrust the system for a reason. They're not crazy. Exactly. There's a reason they distrust the system, but a woman that trusts the system can share their experience and then encourage the man to go. And you have to find a doctor that cares about him and them, and that experience will be positive, and you'll have them going forward. So its main thing is encouraging men to go seek out medical care, seek it out early, but also understanding that a man's relationship with the healthcare system is much different than the female. And if a man is single, he has a brother, sister, mother, that's our role, to encourage these single men to go to the doctor, because it's very, very important. I treat colon cancer, and we all know who has the highest death rate from colon cancer, although that everybody gets it equally. Yep. It's Black men. They roll in half dead, but the married white man, boom. Age 50, his birthday might have been yesterday. I'm scoping him the day before. Wow. Right? They're more likely to get their screening done, but a Black man is the least likely subgroup to get the screening done, and that's stratified for insurance. So it's not due to lack of insurance, it's lack of trust and a system that has historically abused them, or it's a man that has been abused, period, and doesn't trust anything, let alone the healthcare system. And how do we reach out and get to that? And it's because a woman that he does trust, he may not trust anything else, but that woman, she needs to lead him to the healthcare system. So wow. I'll finish there. But Dr. Williams, man, I'm glad that you went. I'm a physician, just like you mentioned. I did not go to the doctor until I had a child. I really was not concerned about my own mortality or how long I was going to live. Because being from the city, I had beaten a lot of my peers already, and I already thought I was great and I felt good. But when my daughter was born, I started thinking about the future and went to the doctor for the first time as a 27-year-old man. And I'm in healthcare, to what Dr. Williams was saying. So I never judge folks that don't go, because I'm in healthcare and hadn't had a physical and had a good relationship with my pediatrician. I trusted the healthcare system. Fine, but there was no reason for me to go to the doctor, because for me, you go to the doctor when you're sick, and I felt wonderful. And we know you need to go yearly. And I went and found out I had high cholesterol. I had a cholesterol of 300, Nicole.
Woo!
So been on Lipitor ever since. There's a reason that Cross men didn't live above 65. The oldest Cross man was my grandfather, and he had a heart attack at age 65 in my house. Saw him die from a massive heart attack, but cholesterol medicines weren't out back then. So Black men just died. But my uncle, who's 81, is the oldest living Cross man, but he's on cholesterol medicine. He's on treatment. My father's 75 on treatment. I've been on cholesterol medicine since I was 27. It's been controlled. I've not had a heart condition yet, but possible. But the number one cause of death for Black men, heart attack. Yep. Second, stroke, then third, cancer.
Yep. I think that's really deep. And all of us are parents. I never really thought about that. I mean, I want to piggyback on a couple of things. One, because I know that most of my audience, most of you are women. And hey, I'm sorry I'm not responding to your comments, but thank you to all of you who are watching. Have you shared it yet? Make sure you share the video. Make sure you let the male people in your life, please share this video with them. And thank you all for watching. It's important for those of you that are women that are watching this to understand what they are saying. That statistic about single Black men, I actually wasn't familiar with that. It makes perfect sense to me. I just know that I nagged the heck out of my husband. That's all I know. But it didn't dawn on me that, if you're a single man or a single Black man and you don't have a wife in your ear constantly saying, hey, did you get that colonoscopy yet? Hey, this happened. Hey, your stomach's been hurting for a few days. I think you need to get that checked out. It didn't even really dawn on me. So you all, that is our role. I mean, that really is our role as women. If, the men in your life are important to you, and I'm sure that they are, I think, and I'll be honest, it used to kind of annoy me that I had to play that role. I'd be like, why doesn't he just go to the doctor? Like, why do I have to keep, and I mean, with my husband, I have to ask him maybe like 3 or 4 times usually before he would finally go. And he would have to be really, really sick. I mean, like in a lot of pain. I mean, it's always a last resort. So I would get kind of annoyed with him in full transparency. But, now I have a better understanding. I mean, these are 2 Black male physicians who have both acknowledged that, they put off going to the doctor. The other thing I want to touch on and talk with both of you about is this whole issue of trust. The fact that, we know, I mean, the statistics show that Black people in general, and certainly Black men, they do better when they are cared for by other Black physicians. I mean, there's many studies that have shown that, and a lot of that has to do with that trust factor. They are more comfortable, Black men are more comfortable with Black physicians. They are more likely to follow through with recommendations, both preventive and therapeutic, if they have a Black physician. And I'm sure that doesn't come as a surprise to those of you that are watching. But the sad thing is that, Black physicians in general, we make up 5% of the physician workforce. And unfortunately, Black male physicians, that number has been decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. So I saw a very alarming statistic. So in 2015, only 35% of Black medical school graduates were men. And that number was 57% in 1986. So, you would think that as the years go on, that number would increase, but we actually are seeing a decrease in the number of Black male medical school graduates. And then I saw this, which really scared me. Fewer Black men entered medical school in 2014 than in 1978. Can you guys believe that?
Absolutely, I can.
So again, with you all being 2 Black male medical school graduates, I'd just be interested to hear what your thoughts are about that. Why are we losing our Black men in medicine?
So, I mean, that's a whole lecture in itself. But the short version is there's discrimination, and there's a difference. When I was talking about the different levels of an individual, their relationships, their community, and then society. When we unpack the society issue, Blacks may not be respected. They're often disrespected, but Black women get that and they feel that. But Black women are not feared and thought of as a harmful, violent criminal like Black men. So as that stereotype that is misinformed with the facts that 4% of Black men are arrested every year, which means 96% have no interaction with law enforcement, but you assume that every Black man is a criminal, makes you wrong 96% of the time. That is just idiotic, but that is how society treats the Black man, as the fearful criminal. So because a Black man is feared and is thought of as a criminal, his journey through life is different. And for a Black man to become a physician, his journey in the math and sciences in school, he needs to have a good relationship with a parent, uncle, mentor, or something that stresses academics. He needs to be fed on a regular basis, physically and mentally, right? He needs to have tutoring to compete against these kids in early elementary, to test appropriately, to get into the STEM programs in middle school that then get him into high school. So often a Black man or Black child that's just trying to make it doesn't have the tools to be able to get into the STEM class. So he's on survival mode once he gets out of high school, and he may go to college, but he is not in the track meet, the heat that goes to medical school, because that is a STEM program. That is a 3.2 or better in high school. That is a smart kid that a teacher, all of us always had some teacher that said, hey, you're smart. You should think about going to medical school, right? But that kid that you lost in the 6th, 7th grade, nobody goes to him and says, hey, you should think about going to medical school. It just does not happen to that Black kid. And the reason it doesn't happen is he was lost due to those relationships that society has put in place way before that child was born. And so it is no surprise to myself and Dr. Williams that the enrollment of Black men into medical school has gone down. It will continue to go down until you change society's thoughts of us as being fearful animals, criminals, okay? Unarmed Black women may be shot by the police. Rarely, they may be disrespected by the police. They may be slammed to the ground, but it is never thought that they have a weapon because a cop thinks that he can dominate a Black woman. He may not like her, he may disrespect her, but he doesn't kill her because it's the Black man that he's worried about killing him. And that's just in law enforcement. Yeah. How is it in education, right? The Black man is the one that they call the police on, he gets arrested. 2 suspension, he's expelled from school, right? So it is no shock that the Black man doesn't make it through this race to higher education and in medicine to then have a better relationship with other Black men, because the game is set up that way. And now I think this is the first couple weeks that America is actually willing to unpack that box and actually look at it and say, hey, why is it that these things are occurring? So my experience was positive. I have my own issues, but I did have positive male role models that told me I was smart, that made sure I was smart, made sure I got A's and B's. I would get a beating for a C. So the last time I got a C in school was in the 6th grade because I got a lash for every point below a B. So
we are not promoting corporal punishment, by the way.
Not at all. I'm telling you, you could do positive reinforcement. But with that, I had the grades that even my white instructors said, hey, this dude has straight A's. He can become a doctor. It wasn't shut. So I went through. Go ahead.
We've got some hard choices to make as a community. What do we want to do? What do we want to spend our time focused on? A child that does not read on level at the 3rd grade is not going to medical school.
Absolutely.
Point. Right. Yes.
And so, reading preconception care starts long before the child is entering into the world. You should be reading to that child from the moment it's present in the womb. That's a choice. That's a personal choice, independent of the challenges that the child will face in the society. There's nothing that prohibits us to have reading programs for all our children that are church-based in the summertime, so that you don't have this lag that Malcolm Gladwell did a very good job of exposing that is where minority children tend to fall behind in their schooling in terms of their counterparts.
Yeah.
One group or one cohort of kids is reading and actively engaged in academics in the summertime. Another cohort of kids is playing and watching a lot of TV. So I think there are some things that we can have some ownership of and can kind of create better habits that would promote a medical school candidate. But that's a bigger discussion, as Dr. Cross has said. Let's talk about the three historically Black medical schools that are still educating people that are not partnerships, like what Drew has just recently become. But if you look at Morehouse School of Medicine, significant amount of their graduates and their student population are in fact not Black. And if you look at Howard University, it was chartered and it's always had an inclusive mission, and therefore a significant number or certainly of other ethnicities and nationalities. So even the schools that are vested in educating African-American physicians have a percentage of their population that is educating a more diverse sample, unlike other schools. And so what I often say when I'm having these discussions on national panels is that I just want Harvard to be like Howard, educate everybody. I just want UPenn to be like Howard, educate everybody, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do the statistic, and it's a frightening one, and it's one that we have to try to revert.
Yeah, so, but for Howard, Hampton, when we compare them to the Harvards and the Penns, it is not a fair comparison because of the endowments and the amount of money. The most important color in America is green, right? Then you have the whites, the browns, the yellows, but the most important color in this country is green. And if you have it, it opens or is the combination to doors. And if you don't have it, the lack of money, the combinations get harder. So what Dr. Williams was talking about, the harder discussion, there are rules and combinations to make a physician. And one is early education, reading, tutors, mentorship. These kids, you know, so if we were fixing the community, kids need to be identified early and have tutoring in elementary school, okay? Programs that some politicians try to pass that nobody supports, because that would start to level the playing field.
That's it.
Everybody out here in this high level race has a tutor. However fast you can go, you go faster with a trainer. If it's going to the gym, you get in shape better with the trainer. But if you don't have money to get a trainer, it doesn't mean you can't get in shape. But you smack $100 in somebody's hand a week, they get you a nutrition plan, they get you a running plan, they get you in the gym, you are looking good in 6 months, your diabetes, hypertension, all that goes away. But most of us are trying to lose weight, what? On our own.
Yeah.
Most of our children may have parents that are working 2 jobs, and that kid is trying to make it on their what? On their own. Now, do people lose weight and get in shape on their own? Yeah, it happens. But that ain't the norm. Mm-hmm. Does a Black man in America get born in a biracial relationship and become president of the United States? It's happened. That ain't the norm, right? So when people look at me and they say, hey, Dr. Cross, how can you complain about the man holding you down as a community, et cetera, and you're the president of your company, right? How can you say that? I said, the second you start pointing at the exceptions to the rules and the people that got the tools, that had the playbook and made it because they should have made it, like myself, like Obama, who went to the schools, the second you start pointing at the exceptions and not the average, you are lying to yourself and the system, because everything in math is based on the mean and the average. And the average Black man does not have the same chance of graduating from high school as the average white man. So don't talk to me about President Obama. Don't talk to me about Dr. Williams, who's an outstanding dude. This dude went to Harvard, Maryland, Morehouse and is a trauma surgeon and is a colonel in the damn army, right? Don't look at him and tell me, hey, black men are doing fine because of him or me. Talk to me about the average black man, average black woman, and when they are the same as other ethnic groups, right? Then we've reached equality. But because they get the plants, they get the watering, right? They get the fertilizer, they get the good soil on average more than we do. So don't look at my plant and see that it's not as bright, not as strong as the white person's plant when you have withheld fertilizer and water from my plant. Now, every plant has water, every plant has fertilizer and good soil, which is what we have to do in the communities that are disadvantaged, right? And we as a community, as a country, the past 2 weeks, I've seen something different. We now can check that. And you need to hold people accountable and say, hey, give people equal fertilizer, soil. And I don't care if rich people have double helpings of fertilizer and water, right? But at least give the disadvantaged kid fertilizer and water and see if his plant grows. And if his plant doesn't grow, that's something separate. So that's kind of where we are.
Point. Yeah. And that takes us back to the discussion really about health disparities, because that's really what health disparities are all about. I like your analogy about the water and the fertilizer and the good soil. And, I don't know if you all remember, I'll never forget when we were in medical school and there were certain lecturers, and this is back in the 90s, hopefully things have changed, but we would get these professors come in and tell us all about Black people have 25 times of this and 5 times of that. And we die, and the narrative was basically that there was something wrong with Black people. Either we were genetically inferior or we were just, not taking care of ourselves properly. And, back then there really wasn't a robust discussion about disparities and the fact that we're not, you talked about education, in healthcare, it's the same thing. We're Black people in general are not on a level playing field for all the reasons that, we talked about.
The fallacy of race cannot be understated, okay? And it was exposed to me in medical school when I had a diabetic patient and my attending told me that Blacks are more likely to get diabetes, okay? Which, okay, we're in school, you file that away, okay? Then there was a patient of mixed race, Black and white, and I asked the attending, right, not knowing, is his risk of diabetes 50% less because his mother is white?
Yeah.
Right? And my attending at that time said no, because he's Black, his risk is the same as your patient from last week. True story. Doesn't make sense to anybody on this panel and anybody listening, right? But you got to understand the biases, conscious and subconscious bias that comes. And that's when the light went off for me talking about health disparities. This man sat there and told me that a person with 2 Black parents is a higher risk of getting diabetes, but a person with 1 Black parent and half white genes has the same risk of diabetes because he either knows or didn't know that his risk of diabetes goes with how society as a bigger culture treats him.
Yes.
And how he deals with that stress and anxiety. Does he eat more, right? Does he smoke, which makes him gain weight more? And we pass that stress and those dreams down. It has nothing to do with our skin color and everything to how society treats the skin color we're in. So his diabetic risk is something about society and nothing to do with actually African genes.
Right.
It's also been disproved, the low birth weight test, right? African-American women are more likely to have small children, right? All due to racism and stress, right? Yeah. So when they tested that at Harvard University, where Mallory trained, they then looked at African women, right? Because if African-Americans have low birth weight, then African immigrants that come here should have small children too, right? Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? They didn't. But it gets even more interesting. Their children, when they had kids, had small children at the same rate as African-American women, despite having these genes. The difference is once they left the culture that supported them. So if you are labeled Black, and that's the best question you can ask somebody, don't ask them what race they are. Ask them, how does this country perceive you?
Yeah.
Right? Because you can be Black and most often be perceived as white, and your treatment is going to be different.
True.
If they're perceived as Black, their treatment, because of the negative stereotypes, can lead to biases and discrimination, which makes their track harder. And that is this whole thing. We need to unpack and expose this onion, cry a little bit, but understand that people that are labeled as Black are getting mistreated just for that reason. And it has healthcare issues, it has economic issues, it has educational issues, and all of these things are all related to the issue of white supremacy, okay? The false narrative of race, and we need to get that exposed. And once you pop that lesion, like Mallory is a trauma surgeon, once you open it up and get all that pus out, get the infection up, then you can close it. But if you close it prematurely, right, Dr. Williams?
That's right.
The person will get septic and they may die without the right treatment.
That's right. I'm gonna have to give you the knife and let you cut from now on.
I mean, we've talked about healthcare, but we've talked about it way more than that, and I appreciate that because you really.
Well, we got to the social determinants, right?
Exactly, the social determinants,
which is going to lead you right to the outcomes, right?
Exactly, it's all related. You know, it's
all related.
That's what it's all related. You can't pick out little bits and pieces because at the end of the day, it's all interrelated. So I like to leave. We've talked about all the problems. I like to leave my audience with some solutions. So I'm gonna start with you, Dr. Williams. What, you know, as a Black male physician, knowing the state of the health of men, specifically the state of Black men, you know, now we're in the midst of a pandemic. Black men really don't want to go to the hospital now. And I shared with you all on my Facebook post for this show that my own husband declared to me back in March that he was not going to the hospital. He told me, listen, if I get sick from this, I'm telling you now, I'm not going to the hospital. And I was floored. So Dr. Williams, let me start with, I mean, what can you share with the audience, with the women, with the men? Like, what can we do to start to break that down and to make our Black men, specifically men in general, more comfortable seeking care in our healthcare system?
Well, I don't want to be too humorous, but you know, Black women know how to get our attention.
Touche.
So if you want us to do something, you know the levers to hold. You got all the power, right? So y'all got that under control. What I'm gonna say is that it does have to, in some ways, be the focus of a relationship. That as we love one another, that we're also going to care for each other emotionally and physically. And part of that is working your way through some of the difficulties that Kester talked about as we find someone whom our male spouse is going to be comfortable with, one, talking to about everything, and then two, having them poke and prod on them. That's going to be a journey, but that's a journey that has huge return on investment that we have to take together. The other thing is health habits. Health is not something, you know, after we get past age 30, stuff start happening. And we act like we're surprised that we're getting older in some ways. But no, after 30, you have to pay particular attention to what you eat, how much you exercise, your emotional surroundings, what positive energy, all these things. And developing positive health habits and prioritizing that in your life is so important. All right. And it's not something that we learn in elementary school. It's not something we learn in middle school. It's not something we learn at college. There's no course that teaches us how to survive, which leads a little bit back to some of the nihilistic thoughts that Kester was pointing toward that may exist in our community. And so we have to take that time to, okay, baby, we're going on a vacation. But the topic of this vacation, even if it's just to the Poconos, we ain't got to go to the Bahamas. If we're just going down the road, but the topic and the principles of this vacation is how we're going to live and grow old healthy together. That's got to be a priority, right? So we're going to hit this spot, we're going to do all those things. But in that, we've got scheduled time and an appointment with somebody. If that needs to be the case, you call up Nicole and create your appointment to figure out how you and your loved one are going to grow old together healthy and how you're going to do it with a plan. Because I think to a certain degree, we talk about financial well-being and we have advisors for that. We also have to pair with that and marry with that health advisors, because healthcare costs are going to be your largest cost as you get out in age anyway. So that's what I would say to go.
I like that. A plan. I like that. Being proactive. And again,
Yes.
women, he's calling us to the task. I mean, basically what they're both saying is that the women are really the ones that are going to control this for the most part. So that's my challenge to you all. What about you, Dr. Cross? What solutions can you?
It comes from a discussion, and a discussion based in truth. And when we have a discussion, we can start to fix these. And yes, women are very helpful in getting us to the doctor, because early detection is the key. And we have to understand that men, for the most part, what we talk about, money, relationships, sex, religion, church, right? Sports. But we don't talk about healthcare, and we have to make healthcare cool. We have to make healthcare sexy, right? Women have to like healthcare and make a healthy man cool, right? Because a man, like what Dr. Williams was touching on, whatever you guys identify as cool, we will do. Dr. Williams and myself knows that getting good grades did not get you a girl in high school. It didn't come till high college when they put at Hampton, when they put your picture up on that wall with 4 medical schools that you going, all of a sudden, being 5'8" and 140 pounds didn't matter. You go to the top of the food chain.
That's right.
But
To the
before
top.
that, our culture, we make sports cool, right? So our women will navigate to what they call, what do we call them? We call them ballers.
Yeah.
Football, basketball, that's what they're talking about. And then if a man has a good job, we still can't disconnect it from sports, and we call him a baller too. Dr. Williams is a baller, and he's a doctor.
A baller for real.
Yeah, right, yeah. But we in our culture equate sports with balling and money and success.
Right.
It has nothing to do with health, and healthy is the real wealthy.
Yes, health. Your health is your wealth.
Right? There are no granddaddies and old black men because they're all dead in their 70s. Despite white folks living an entire decade. What I tell folks, that's 10 Christmases more than you.
Wow.
Right.
Just because you won't go to the doctor and get in shape. Black men live a decade shorter than everybody else in this country. So if we talk about that, that makes me want to go to the doctor. For me, I went to the doctor because my daughter was born and I wanted to be alive to see her grow up and stuff. And now I have 2 boys, so I want to see them and stuff. So I'm running, walking and stuff because I know I need to stay in shape to increase my chances of making it to 80 something.
So you're saying not just the women, but really the family, having daughters, having sons makes you more cognizant of your life expectancy and you want to be around. So we need to leverage that, women. We need to leverage, put on the guilt trip.
Listen, that's what I was going to tell you. The thing that works, the one phrase that, and I ask women when they get their husbands to go, hey, what did you say to get them? And a thing that often works with the man is when the women say, if you love me like you say you do, you'll go to this doctor's appointment. All of the negative nagging and stuff that you've been nagging him for 10 years, he tunes that out, right?
Yeah.
If you say something like, if you love me like you say you do, you'll go to the doctor.
Somebody put that in the comments for me. If you love me like you say you do,
correct.
You go to the doctor. That's
a man, because we have troubles with love, right? And most men, black men, haven't seen it up close. We don't know what it is. It's like a mystery to us. So we think we know what love is. So when a Black woman or a woman that we're in a relationship with questions our ability to love them, that motivates us, right? Because now I can show her that I love her by going to the doctor. That's very simple. We can line up with you with that. They go to the doctor. So,
or when you get back from the doctors, I have something very special for you.
Nah, you bad. You bad.
Okay, yes.
You bad.
So a reward.
But
a reward system.
You know, and Nikki, I think we talked for me, you know, I'm on my second marriage, right?
Yes.
And when I got divorced the first time, Dr. Williams, who's a very close friend of mine, I told him, I say, hey, man, I'm thinking about dating again, and I'm thinking about getting married again because I want to have more children and stuff in the family. And me and Mallory, we're playing golf. On whatever hole that was, Dr. Williams said, hey, man, let me tell you something, brother. If you want to have another relationship, you need to get some counseling.
Wow.
And I remember him telling me that, and it comes from another Black man that I respect.
Yes.
That had seen me and knows that I do a lot of things right, but relationships, I did not. And he would see me start them and fail. They all had that expiration date, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, maybe 6 months, but they didn't last that long. I'm not blaming them, myself, but it wasn't until I went to have counseling just to find out about myself, where I was hurt. What damage did I have, okay? And I mentioned earlier, if you are a Black person in America, an American period, but I have yet to meet a Black person that if we have a good enough relationship to talk and ask them from age 5 on, that didn't have issues that they needed to talk about, right? But going to counseling for that 9 months, it is no accident that I then met my wife for 15 years after that, right? And that
you lucked out.
I lucked out.
Beautiful woman.
Yes.
Right? But she got to meet a different person. She met the person that was healed.
Mm-hmm.
But a hurt Black man, often folks are trying to have a relationship with a hurt Black man that doesn't know why he's hurt, that doesn't know why he's distrustful to the world, society, relationships, including you. You can't have a good relationship without trust, and he's distrustful of everything.
Yeah.
And it's not until he has something that he can really trust, okay, that he can move forward. And with that trusting relationship, you can get him to the doctor. So that's the version.
Okay, so that's good. So again, so we heard about women. You can tell them if they don't love you. If they really love you, they'll go to the doctor.
If you love me, no, it's not that you don't love me, because he knows he does.
Okay.
If you love me like you
say you do. That's right.
Go to the doctor, because that will make me feel good. I'll go to the doctor. There's a lot of things that I'll do for a woman that I love that tells me that.
Yes. And then we heard we have a little reward system. Y'all know what that is that we can utilize.
Hey, I didn't say that.
We can either withhold it or we can grant it when they've come back from the doctor. And then Dr. Cross shared that, you know, men, now he shared, and I appreciate you sharing that, Kester, that it was his good friend, a fellow Black man, a fellow physician, who told him, like, dude, you need to go get you some help. You need to go get counseling. So for the men that are watching, that is extremely powerful. You know, you all can be that peer group. You can be that friend that, you know, reaches out. It doesn't even have to be for counseling. It may be, dude, you're 50. Have you gotten your colonoscopy yet? You know, or maybe your coworker has been complaining about a headache for the last 6 weeks. And you can say, like, hey, why don't you go get that checked out? So, I mean, this has been incredibly helpful.
But, Nikki, to that point,
yes.
With counseling, I would ask people to omit the word counseling. And I have been much more successful in telling people that they need to look and seek out a life coach. Life coaching, because we equate in our culture sports.
Coach
wins. When you change counselor to life coach and getting a coach, they're more likely to go. because counseling is a sign of weakness. Coaching or trainer to make me better, I'm cool with that. And most Black men or Black women are more likely to go on and find a life coach, life trainer. But you tell them they need counseling, then you're telling them that you know that something's wrong with them. And when people have their issues exposed, they retreat. Nobody likes to show that they have issues.
Maybe that's the entry point, because some of y'all really do need a mental health professional. Some of us, all of us.
Yes.
Maybe a life coach could be that.
A life coach, yeah.
I like it, a coach.
But let me say this. I think this is very important. Before we had medicine in the modern form that we share it today, we had love. And that's how mothers cared and caressed their children. And that's how we, as mammals, cared for one another. And it is so important as African-American men that we look at other African-American men and we express authentic gratitude and authentic love and appreciation for other African-American men. I do it with Kester, he does it with me. And there is something affirming and there's something healing about that. We can give that freely. It costs nothing but a phone call, a text message, a video session. That's something we can do for one another each and every time we see each other. And even for some individuals who you may not even know, but you feel something, you feel the Lord telling you to say something to that person. That's positive energy that we can send out. And I think it's so important in terms of our mental health and our well-being, and to be able to feel that appreciation descend upon us, because we often don't.
Amen.
You know what? We got no better way to end than that. Love is free. We all have it in our hearts. And I appreciate that. That's something that we can all do. You all, this has been amazing. Like, I feel like we're going to have to do a part 2.
We can
all right, let's do it again.
Let me just quickly read through some of them. Thanks for your transparency. Thanks for talking about this subject. It is needed, especially in the Black community. This is true. Women will press their men to go to the doctor. Let's see. Interesting insight in the difference in how we cope within the healthcare system based on parental, community, and societal relationships. I am sharing this with my male friends. I love it. I love it. I love it. Hello. Let's see. If you love me like you say you do, you will go to the doctor. We got a thumbs up on that one. They really like that one.
I get that in for free.
And we have several of our med school classmates on here, you guys. Thank you to all of you for watching. We're definitely going to have to do this again. Kester or Dr. Cross, Dr. Williams. I know you all as Kester and Mallory. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
I'm Rob and he's Batman. He's a colonel.
That's correct.
And armed. I can still beat him in golf, though.
Oh, Lord. But no, I really appreciate both of you. This has been phenomenal. So thank you for taking time out of your day. You all, I'm going to say it again, share this video, okay? Specifically with the Black men in your life. I really think that this can be life-changing. I'm going to make my husband watch it. And
he's going to get us, Mallory. He ain't going to talk to her. We're going to be able to sell out.
No, but really, I'm going to share it with my nephews, my husband, my brother. So thank you all. And you all stay well, stay safe. I love you. I'm so thankful that our paths crossed back in University of Maryland School of Medicine.
Amen to that.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
I appreciate what you all are doing. I know that you literally are unicorns in the healthcare system. So I'm just thankful that you all are successful and that you are out here as role models. And I'm sure that there are many Black men that you all have touched, you know, as patients and mentors that you probably will never know. So thank you. And to the rest of you, have an amazing night. Stay tuned for some special announcements about Navigator Nuggets. I have some new things coming up for the summer. So just stay tuned on my Facebook page. And good night, everybody.
Strong J.
All right, Lieutenant.